people do not need another explanation. They need to watch you move differently. You ever felt like no matter how much you explain your boundaries, your growth, your choices, certain people just don't get it? Maybe it's time to stop talking and start showing. So welcome. Humans, let's be real. Some people do not need another explanation. They need to watch you move differently. You ever felt like no matter how much you explain your boundaries, your growth, your choices, certain people just don't get it? Maybe it's time to stop talking and start showing. So welcome to Vibes and Affirmations, where there's a thin line between crashing out and keeping it all together. I'm your host G, your favorite voice of reason and sometimes chaos, and today we're breaking down why it's time to stop justifying, over-explaining, and convincing and start making moves that speak for themselves. Why do we feel the need to explain ourselves to people who are committed to misunderstanding us? Like, let's be real, some people ain't gonna get it. No matter how much you explain, your growth, your boundaries, your next move is not up for debate. But first, let's set the tone with today's affirmation. Are you ready? I owe no one no explanations for my growth. I trust my path and I move accordingly. Yes, say it with me. I owe no one no explanations for my growth. I trust my path and I move accordingly. Because listen, not everyone deserves a front row seat to your evolution. Some people are meant to watch from the nosebleeds, apagando luz in the top, you feel me? And today, we're going to give them exactly that. Why do we feel like we owe people a PowerPoint presentation on our decisions? Is it guilt? Is it the need for approval? Is it because we're scared to be misunderstood? Whatever it is, let's be clear. You don't owe anyone permission to grow. Sometimes we feel like we're making a choice for ourselves could be selfish, so we over-explain to soften the blow. Many of us were conditioned to want a gold star or validation. Even as adults, explaining becomes a way to get graded on our decisions. Nobody likes being painted as the villain, so we try to control the narrative by giving all the details. Most of the time, people aren't entitled to your reasoning. Even when you explain, they might not agree with you. That's facts, and it's okay. Growing up, maybe you had to explain yourself to your parents, your teachers, or authority figures. That habit lingers, I think. Wanting to be liked and keeping the peace leads to much constant, justifications. Explaining yourself over and over is exhausting, mentally and emotionally. The more you justify, the more it feels like you need to ask for permission. Like you need permission. And that's crazy. You're a fucking grown up. I've learned that when you over explain, you hand control over your narrative to someone else. Sometimes the most powerful answer is just because that's what I decided. And that's that. You're a grown up. Growth doesn't require an audience to co-sign it. It requires you to be at peace with your choices. And sometimes that literally means just you not focusing on anyone else's opinions about it. Your life is not a courtroom. You don't need to present evidence for why you choose peace, success, and distance. Have you ever found yourself over-explaining a decision that was none of their business? Do you struggle with worrying about how people will perceive your growth? Who in your life makes you feel like you need to justify your choices? And why do you care? I know I put up a poll on Instagram to decide this week's episode, but honestly, I ended up being the tiebreaker. The reason why I chose this topic is because I recently went through something that resonated with me selecting this topic. I was in a situation where, looking back, it was given set up to boost someone else's ego, and in the process I unintentionally downplayed someone else's. But the crazy part is I didn't even realize it in the moment that it gave set up, because my intentions were pure. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I was left with the weight of how I was perceived from the actual facts. And in that moment, it hit me. I don't owe anyone an explanation. I don't owe anyone a rundown of my intentions. I don't owe anyone shit. Because the truth is, people who want to misunderstand you will. It don't matter what you say. And that's when it clicked for me. I don't owe anyone an explanation. Not a play-by-play of my choices. Not a defense speech. Nothing. Because the truth, when your intentions are genuine, it will always be their loss. Even if they choose to twist it. People who want to misunderstand you will do it regardless. And the people who get it don't need a motherfucking PowerPoint about it. And at the end of the day, it is not my job to prove my purity. It is their loss if they miss it. People will use you for an ego boost and then try to flip the narrative. But that's not your burden to carry. And yes, it will always be their loss. So yeah, that brought me here to this conversation today. You don't owe anyone a reason for choosing yourself. And that's why I wanted to sit with this topic today, because so many of us feel the pressure to explain ourselves, whether it's to family, friends, or even strangers. So why do we feel like we owe people a full-blown breakdown of our decisions? Why is it that you start making better choices and some people suddenly have concerns? If they supported the old version of you more than this one, I think that says enough. This is when you start to notice people who were just fine with you being inconsistent or maybe even self-sabotaging. But the moment you prioritize discipline, peace, or bigger goals, suddenly they got questions. Sometimes it's not even about you. It's about them feeling left behind. Your growth is shining a light on their stagnancy. Stop trying to convince them. Growth isn't up for debate. Just do you. If every conversation feels like a debate, a courtroom case, a TED Talk, let that be your sign. If every time you share your decisions and it turns into you defending yourself, that's not support. That's judgment disguised as a conversation. True support feels like lightness, encouragement, and at least curiosity, not exhaustion. Set a boundary. A simple line like, I don't need you to agree with me. I just need you to respect it. My favorite is, we can agree to disagree, but you do have to respect it. And if they can't, then maybe they don't need that level of access to you. Sometimes people don't want to understand. Like, let's be clear. Some people don't want to understand. They just want to argue, project, guilt trip you into staying the same. You can tell when someone isn't really listening. They're already forming their rebuttal. At some point, no explanation in the world will land because they don't care to understand. And that, when you realize that, and in that moment, you will just stop talking. Real shit. You will just stop talking. Because here's the truth. People don't want clarity. They want control. Silence is the best response. If someone constantly needs convincing about your worth, your boundaries, or your decisions, maybe they're not meant to be in your life. Explaining drains you. Moving in silence keeps them guessing. Okay, let's be real. Some of y'all probably thinking of specific people right now. You know exactly who makes you feel like you have to explain your every move. And guess what? You're down. Here's what I need you to reflect on this week. Ask yourself, when was the last time I over-explained something that I didn't really have to? Who in my life makes me feel like I owe them an explanation for my growth? And what would happen if I just stopped explaining and move differently? Because let me tell you, some people will only respect your shit, will only respect your boundaries once you start enforcing them in silence. So yes, say it with me one more time. I owe no one no explanations for my growth, and I trust my path, and I move accordingly. And moving forward, move like the version of you that doesn't need approval from anyone, period. At the end of the day, explanations are a privilege, and that's what I had to learn. That shit is not an obligation. So if you're tired of justifying your growth, tired of over-explaining, tired of feeling like you have something to prove to people who won't even get it, just stop. Just stop. Because the real ones, they don't really need an explanation. And the rest, that shit is none of your business. It ain't your problem. Just move differently. And watch how shit just starts shifting. That's it for this week's episode of Vibes and Affirmations. If this episode spoke to you, share it. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that their growth doesn't need an audience. And if you haven't already, follow the pod so you won't miss next week's episode. Until next time, humans, stay solid. Stop explaining yourself. Just move differently and keep vibing.